was born in a village about 200 kilometers from the capital. We're talking about a few days of walking. There's always a pressure from the family. No matter how much we cry about it, it's going to take some time to have that change.
People who might be struggling with networking, or people who say like they don't know anybody, they don't know where to go, where would you say like they should start from?
Nobody's going to come to your door. You have to be there, but it will take time. Once you start doing that, and then you start making connections. One point you also need to start thinking about, okay,
in these 21 years, what type of challenges did you have?
Once you graduate or once you're getting working life, then you start seeing the problem. Do you have enough credentials? Do you have enough finish? Do you have enough connection? Especially now in Finland, when you say 70-80%, I mean, hidden jobs, we're trying to get into working life, and we don't have the right connection. It sucks. I have literally seen.
Welcome back to the Godson Pratt Podcast. Today I have a special guest here, Bikash. My first question for you is, why should somebody listen to this episode today?
I would say we will have discussions, a lot of discussions on representation.
Right.
A lot of discussions on the hardships each one of us has gone through, and people like people like us, for example, immigrants trying to settle in a new country.
Exactly.
What trials and tribulations we have gone through. So I think we'll get that hardships part, but at the same time we'll also look into the positive aspect. That,
exactly.
Again, we're not saying that we are like really successful people, but I think we're able to at least have something on the table that we are proud of what we are building. So I think some sort of inspiration also that we can give out to our listeners. So I think it's going to be exciting.
Awesome. I'm really excited to do this. And then for those of you who don't know, Bikash is a Nepalese entrepreneur based in Helsinki, Finland. He is the founder of Bato, which is a community and also an accelerator for Nepalese founders across the Nordic. And he is also the creator of The New Height with Bikash, which is a video podcast. 2 series have been done already, and he said 3rd season is coming soon.
Yeah.
So today we're going to learn from Bikash why he came to Finland and all his experiences both in professional and also in personal life. So today's conversation is going to be one that you don't want to miss. Stay tuned and let's get it. So Bikash, once again, welcome to the Godson Pratt Podcast. We're gonna have a lot of interesting conversation about your experience, but before we do that, can you take us a little bit back? You are from Nepal originally, right? So before Finland, who was Bikash, and what was the dream? What did you think you would become growing up?
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, it brings quite a lot of memories. I've been in Finland for now 21 years.
Wow, so that's a long time.
Came in 2005 as a student, fresh bachelor student.
Okay.
So been here for quite a long time. But back in Nepal, I mean, I was born in a village about 200 kilometers from the capital, it's the western part of Nepal. And we're talking about not, Helsinki, Tampere, 200 kilometers, we're talking about a few days of walking.
Wow.
And of course now things have changed, but it's a remote village in Nepal. So until I was, I think, 7 or 8, I was still there. So daily task of just taking the cattle, for example, your oxes, your buffaloes and stuff to the jungle and spend time playing in the river and then swimming in the river and catching fish and then being with the family and those kind of things. Really kind of like traditional village stuff, working in the fields and those things. Then I think 7 or 8, I came down. For example, from my family members, they moved to the nearby town.
Okay.
Then where I did my schooling, started my schooling, and then when I was about 10, 11. I got into a boarding school. That was a bit more further from the town. It's called Pokhara. It's the most sort of like the touristic place in Nepal.
Right.
So I got into that boarding school. So usually I have to do the entrance exam, and luckily I got in.
Right.
So I was there in the boarding school for about till I was I think 14, 15. So until 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Until I finished my bachelor's, my school leaving certificate. And then did my +2 or let's say higher secondary, and then came to Finland. But growing in Nepal, there's always a pressure from the family that you have to become a doctor, become a pilot, at least engineer, for example. Those are the things that been getting a lot of pressure from the family, but I never had that aspirations to become one. I was much more into operations, or much more, for example, excited to do, hiking, running around, spending much more. I was not that good in studies, so being a doctor and engineer was far away from my list. I was much more into management, for example, operations and those kind of things. But yeah, so not that ambitious guy to start with when I was growing up. But yeah, definitely some sort of like the mentality of you gotta work hard. I think that mentality was still there. And I think it's still there till now.
Good.
So that's how the growing up became in Nepal.
Awesome. So, but anyway, Finland.
Yeah.
Why Finland? And was that like deliberate choice, or did life just happen and then you ended up in Finland?
I think it's kind of mixed.
Okay.
It is like it just happened, and at the same time that was sort of like the only the limited options that I had.
Okay.
I mean, we're not a rich family; we're very middle class back home, and a lot of my friends, they moved to the States, the UK, and then Australia, and a few other countries. Of course, many of them could afford it. And with a lot of friends who were dads, they were like, we're very, famous or popular for, having this British army.
Right,
my
right.
friends, their dads,
Okay.
they're in the army, so they are much more likely to go to the UK, likely to go to Hong Kong, for example.
Right.
Nepalese people there.
Right.
And actually, like my family has been living now, moved to Hong Kong for about 16 years already.
Okay.
That's much more because there's like big crowd there. So growing up, a lot of my friends were doing, many of my friends, they had that option, but I didn't have that much.
Okay.
So kind of like when I started looking into, after finishing my higher secondary, then I started looking into the options because everybody's going out.
Yes.
Everybody's going abroad for further studies and stuff, for career and stuff.
Yeah.
So I started looking into the options, and then Finland was one of them.
Okay.
And then you didn't have to pay any tuition fees.
Right.
These are what I heard from other people who've been here before.
Yeah.
Before me, they said like, well, it's quite easy exam, and then the deposit amount that we have to give, I think it was like 6K back then, 6,000 euros.
Okay.
So I was still working in a call center, so I was able to at least collect some amount, and then the rest I got from my family members, and sort of like gave set for an exam, and had my IELTS English test.
Right.
And then, in a month or two, I was actually in Finland.
Wow.
So it was not really that kind of like a lot of, and back then, of course, we didn't have that kind of trend also to look into surf, this sort of cyber cafes were just starting, so you were just able to look into check the net and then look into the options, but again we didn't have that much, so Finland was the obvious choice for me, at least.
From what you have said so far, it seems like you started with a lot of disadvantages, or you started with not so much opportunities on the table. Like you said that your family was not exclusively rich or something, even though some of your friends had relatives in the UK and stuff like that. So one of my question, or something that kind of interests me, is like, there are many people who start with nothing, and most of them, that becomes the path that they just continue to follow. I have nothing and that's it. But here we are. You started from, excuse me to say, from nothing, and now you are not here just like building things for yourself. You are also helping people, startups to get funding, and you are building a community for the Nepalese people. That is huge. At what point did you start to see the disadvantage that you had as an advantage that kept you going, and then kept you looking for more?
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of different, few different perspectives in here. First of all, of course, I think the community. I mean, it's not only me; it's the community, and it has helped me a lot.
Right.
Coming, for example, 2005, not having any Nepalese friend, and all of a sudden, like moved to Helsinki, and I have like a lot of Nepalese friends playing football together, going to movies, and then, for example, we're cleaning, working the city line, so cleaning the ship the whole day. So there's a lot of brotherhood, a lot of community. This kind of like a belonging within the community.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of like, and I think that is one really, really important to anyone watching today's listening to today's show, make sure wherever you are from, at least be close to the community, because it helps so much, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you need people to hang around, people to drink beer or play football or do something.
Exactly.
Or even if you want to discuss really like business related things, you need someone that really understands. You really have gone through that process. For example, if I'm telling my story to someone, again, people who have already been very privileged people, then it will not relate, it will not resonate.
Exactly.
But majority of the people, especially like I can only tell about my Nepalese community.
Yes.
We have one, came through the same process, the same similar background, so we understand the positives and negatives, and then the challenges and then the privileges that we have. So I think that kind of helped a lot to have that community. That keeps me going. I gotta do something back to the community because it has given me so much. And the other point is, you have to start doing something for your own also. You have to have that proactiveness. You have to have that, okay, all right, if I don't get a job, what do I do? I need to find something else, in the meantime. Or if you're doing something, build something on your own. Look at us, man. We are, it's not that we have millions of listeners. We have a podcast too. It's not that we have millions of, people listening to us, subscribing us, but we are doing it because we love the community. We love this art. And for example, for myself, I love to have that platform for my Nepalese founders, because I think that that's something that is missing in the community. So I think that perseverance and then the sort of like the proactiveness is one thing, and the community aspect, being part of the community, is another thing that kind of really keeps me going on a regular basis.
Like, let's say Finland is famously hard to break into socially. Finns are very reserved. The language is almost impossible to learn. The networks are tight. What was like the reality for you, the first month when you came? Obviously you had the Nepalese community, but outside of that, what was the reality like?
Yeah, when I came to Finland in 2005, it was in last year. It was only two Nepalese. Actually, only two Nepalese, and another friend. We came together. He actually moved to Helsinki. It was a bit too much in Latvia. There's nothing to do, right? But luckily enough, at least for me, the expenses was quite low back then. My rent was I think 115 or 118 euros per month. And then with 200, 250, pretty much survive. With life. With 20 euro, you can get like few weeks of stuff from living. Back then. We're talking about 20 years back. So things was not difficult, to be very honest, back then. And again, it all depends on that whether you have enough money in the bank account or not. For example, for many of my friends, they had to send back some of the money that they had. 6,000, at least, luckily, I didn't have to do that. So at least I was safe in that sense. I didn't have to find a job right away. So integration in terms of the need for the Finnish language was not that important.
Exactly.
Because of course you need that language to find a job. Or to sort of be let's say. Or to be part of the community. But in Lahti back then, we had a lot of international students. And Finnish students, they also wanted to practice their English back then. Now everybody's like much more, but back then they were not that much used to having international students in that town. So at least the kind of like early months was not that difficult for me, at least. I got along quite well with all my international friends, and I had Vietnamese and one Cameroonian my roommates. So going to the university, joking around, playing around, and sort of like going to the class, it was to be honest, it didn't feel that difficult. It was only later on, once you start having the university, having the degree, and then starting to get into the working life, damn, I had to study. I wish I had studied Finnish. I wish I had built my network and all those kind of things. That came later on. Early years, of course, the weather is it's a different story.
Of course.
But otherwise, it was quite chill back then. I have to admit.
So Bato. What Bato is the community that you built or started. What was the trigger? Like, what made you think like something is missing that you have to start a community?
I think going back to again the being part of the community, helping the community, and what I've been organizing, for example, since 2013, 2014, I've been organizing events for Nepalese community with a few of my friends. So we established this non-profit organization called Sanjal. Sanjal means network in Nepali. So the whole idea was that we bring in Nepalese artists to Finland, and then we organize cultural events so that at least Nepalese in Finland, they have
something,
feel of the cultural aspect. And we organized football tournaments, we organized cultural events, a hiking here and there, and then we had this Nepalese bands coming into Finland and playing it. And then, so that community aspect is still there. But the more I discuss with people, the more I see people, we figured I kind of like saw that we didn't have that many people who actually are hardcore founders, hardcore entrepreneurs. Of course, we have like a lot of Nepalese restaurants. And it takes a different set of skills to build that and to scale that.
Exactly.
And having said that, as part of, for example, part of Slush, part of volunteering quite many tech events, and like firsthand saw like what you can actually do with entrepreneurship once you have that feel, or once you have that kind of like a, once you get into that ecosystem.
Exactly.
And how important it is to build that network within the startup ecosystem, within that ecosystem. So I kind of like started feeling that, okay, Nepalese are missing very heavily there. Like 2018, 2019, when I was working at Slush, there was no Nepalese. Maybe one or two were actually volunteered. But I came up, and when I went last year, it was my 8th or 9th Slush. And like from the clockroom to the sustainability to the stage,
Nepalese
everywhere, man. There was Nepalese all around. And of course, there's like, apart from those, there's other international volunteers also. I mean, but just to see how it had changed, how people have now, the youngsters, all these young Nepalese students, they are much more focused because they can see the importance of networking, the importance of the startup ecosystem. So that's how I also felt, 17, 18, once I got involved much more into the ecosystem. I kind of started feeling, hey, we got to do something about it. And that's how I started building kind of the community, building the network and stuff, and organizing events here and there, and networking with the Nepalese founders, for example, or people who are working in tech. Because the whole idea was that later on to create a platform, like Bato, platform like my podcast, Innovators with Bikash. The whole idea was that giving representation to Nepalese. Hey, in Finland, man, Nepalese don't only have restaurants. We also have tech companies. We also have people really, massively talented people who are actually working in whether it's quantum, whether it's other deep tech companies, whether it's satellites, whether it's or AI startups. People, Nepalese people are everywhere, man. It's just that they don't have the visibility.
Exactly.
He or she is there. But we don't know more about that. But we need those people to come out, and so that they can, kind of be the representation. It's not me being the representation. I'm just a platform. I'm giving a platform to somebody who's actually done those things. A founder who actually scaled the company from 0 to 1 million. That they are the ones that people, the next generation, have to look into. Not me. Maybe in some cases platform, but they are the main stars. So that's why I kind of started feeling like when I started, seeing all the Finnish and international founders coming in, pitching at Slush or other events, and looking how they are, motivating or encouraging, the next generation wave of new founders and entrepreneurs and stuff. Man, we are missing that from Nepal. We got to do something about it. So that's how I started feeling, and that's how the trigger for the podcast and the trigger for Bato.
Got it. So Bato means road or path in Nepal. Why that name, and what does it represent to you beyond just a brand?
Bato is such a common word that we use in Nepal. And then when I was looking more into what names should I put and what kind of brands should I put. Even like when you see like in here, this is like the stairs, right? Like this tree. So you got a step. Right. This is how, like when I was designing the logo, I was thinking like, okay, you gotta go through different steps. And building a startup, being a founder, it's a journey. And to have the journey, you need somewhere where you have to take your steps.
Right.
So the sort of like the traditional pitch is Bato means road in Nepali,
right?
And it helps the next generation of Nepalese founders to take their steps, or first steps, to build impactful global ventures.
Right.
So that's the traditional pitch.
Got it.
But the whole idea was that with Bato, we are kind of like a platform. We help the founders to get as many help as possible in terms of events, in terms of accelerator, in terms of startup guidance, in terms of media visibility, for example, so that they can do all of those kind of things to build an amazing company.
Right.
So that was the whole idea.
Got it. So the thing is, like, you mentioned that when you first started Slash, there was 2 Nepalese, and then one or two, right?
Volunteers.
And then when you have gone almost like the 8th time, it was like Nepalese all over. So there is this saying, like, it's pretty famous. I don't even know who said it, but I heard it before, and then it sounded good. And they said, like, do not always like go where the path leads. Sometimes go where there's no path. Create a path and leave a trail for others to follow.
That's nice.
Which is something that you did really nice for the Nepalese. But I want you to take me a little bit, back to new heights with Bikash. You already started Bato. Why did you need New Heights with Bikash?
No, actually, New Heights was before.
Before Bato.
Yeah.
Got it.
So New Heights I started in 2023.
Okay.
So that was the first season.
Yeah.
So the whole idea when I started the podcast, and that was after COVID, and people and the podcast market was going
quite
high. And
right.
I kind of started looking into for example, different podcasts.
Okay.
I listened to quite many Finnish startup podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcast, and also like looking into we need a platform for us where we can share our stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna share struggles.
Exactly.
Share what you have, what you were in the past, and then what you have, what you're doing at the moment. And then what will you become?
Yeah.
Sort of like you need to have that kind of like somebody who has done things, telling the story.
Yeah.
Because you can relate so much.
Exactly.
There are like hundreds of Finnish founders, hundreds of international founders.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I feel is that I can't relate with them, man.
Right.
I can relate to some extent.
Yeah.
But I can't relate to someone who's raised, studied in Aalto, for example, traditionally Aalto, or in Finland's case, in that sense, have very good network and raised money for the startups. I can't relate with them in terms of founder journey.
Right.
But I can relate someone, for example.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend called Bato, who has been in the startup ecosystem for quite many years. He has his own company, IT company, and he has done sort of like he has been a role model for a lot of Nepalese people.
Right.
Like building a company and going through that process.
Yeah.
So I can relate more with him.
Right.
Because he has gone through that.
Right.
I mean, he was also a guest in my podcast. He was sharing stories about sleeping on a boost turbo, like he plays on the sofa, and then losing money on some of his other companies, and then getting back and then building the company back again. I mean, those are the stories that we want to hear.
Exactly.
And that we can relate.
Yeah.
So that was the main sort of like an idea behind the New Heights podcast. That two things. First, I wanted to give the representation.
Yes.
That, hey, like I said, I think I mentioned before also that hey, in Finland, I mean, whenever I meet people, hey, where are you from? I'm from Nepal.
Yeah.
I mean, recommend one Nepalese restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Man, we are more than a food.
Right.
We are more than a Nepalese restaurant.
Right.
We have other things. We have other skills too. So that was kind of like trigger. After living 15 years, 16, 17, back then, people were still asking, hey, recommend.
Yeah.
Can you ask me to recommend the startup?
Yes.
This and that.
Yeah.
Because we could because we are capable of that. And I think that's kind of like a trigger.
Yeah.
We was about the trigger before. I think that was kind of the trigger.
Got it.
We do more than that. So representation, we have that, and the role model, having a role model. Hey, somebody has gone through the same process. He or she has come from the same, education system, the same governmental system. Born in a village, for example, somebody has come here, built an amazing career. Something I think one of my brothers, he has been working in the gaming industry almost 15, 20 years. Did amazing stuff.
Right.
I mean, those are the role models we need to look into. When we came in, we didn't have that many because everybody's cleaning. I mean, everybody's picking berries, cleaning, doing posting. I'm not saying those are bad jobs. I'm just saying that in sort of when you're finding the career,
Yeah.
you have to do certain things.
Exactly.
And then when I remember my own, cleaning journey in different places, doing all those kind of things, that set me a foundation.
Right.
And I'm very much grateful to all those things. And I'm sure all of us who have gone through that process are very grateful for that. But there comes a time where you have to step up.
Elevate.
Right.
Got
and
it.
then when you don't have people
Yeah.
who have already done that jump,
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. Right?
Definitely.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
So you can always say, okay, he actually went that, or she actually
Yeah.
did that. Okay, let me follow that too.
Right.
So I think that kind of like channels.
Yeah.
That's quite important. And that's why the New Heights and Bato resonates quite well.
Got it. This, what you just said is very interesting for me because, as you said it, I keep kind of like imagining in my head, right? But then this question is popping in my head that, I'm starting to, I've had many entrepreneurs, being asked this question on podcasts and stuff like that. And the question is, do you think like, first of all, everybody can be an entrepreneur, or do you think like everybody can, let's say, build a startup? Because from what you're saying, it's like, I also came to Finland, I came as a refugee, right? So I started my journey in the refugee camp where I lived for like about a year. But every day in the refugee camp, I learned two things. I would study Finnish for a few hours, and then I would study, because I wanted to study nursing. So I had to do the IELTS, all those type of things. So literally that's what consumed all my time, right? So by the time I was even getting resident permit, I had already got it into University of Applied Science, and I was like ready to go. And so it's like I had to do like cleaning and all those type of things in between. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me because I knew like that was just like, steps for me to elevate. But I've also seen people who, started to do cleaning, and they never stopped. They never like elevated from that. They stayed. I mean, obviously they like what what they are doing, and I respect that a lot. But I think like, do you think that anybody can have an ambition to be an entrepreneur or to build a startup, or do you think like some people are just born with that innate ability to just be entrepreneurs?
Yeah, few things in here. I think really good points. Yeah. And then before even that, I mean, look at yourself, man. Godson. I mean, you have gone through that process.
Right. Right.
Now we're sitting in a boulevard and then doing the podcast together.
Unbelievable, right?
Exactly. Remember your own journey, how you have gone through. And then I'm sure there are like a lot of people who have helped, who have been really, really important
for sure
on that journey.
For sure.
And then every time you see them, I'm sure you thank them.
For sure.
So much for helping that one. So, and that's the same thing for me. And during the process, been in this 21 years, I have a lot of friends who've been helping me around, when building the community, when building, creating events, and even doing Bato Summit, for example. Even doing podcasts. I mean, there's a lot of help needed here and there. From your friends, from your family members, from people who can chip in like, hey man, this is not good. You're gonna change the question, or hey, the sound was not good. Any kind of feedback,
video stuff,
so important. Right. So when you look into yourself, amazing job so far.
Thank you.
It is, I think, just a start. I think there's so much we can do.
Thank you.
Right. And then going back to that, can anybody be an entrepreneur or founder? I think I don't think everybody will have it. Okay. Because what I've also realized down the years is over the years is that when you are doing a certain thing for quite many years, you are very comfortable. You don't want to go out from that job. Right. There's a certain uncertainty, like fear in it, and especially when it comes to family members. For example, a lot of not only Nepalese, a lot of my international friends who have now got stuck, in some for example, manual labor jobs. In that case, they already have a family. They have children. You're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay all those kind of things. And even get to make sure you get the resident permit, to permanent, for instance. You need to do certain hours. And if you don't have experience, if you don't have education background, if you don't have those certificates, you cannot go to that phase. So for many people, you are stuck with it. You can't go away from that. But the rest who can go away from that, there are two sides. Some of them, they still want to do it because it's so easy.
Exactly.
You don't have to go out.
Exactly.
Instead of, for example, yourself, instead of filming the stuff today,
Yeah.
or whatever we need today.
Yeah.
Filming, editing it, putting all the edits, subtitles, whatever it is,
Yeah.
chopping down those kind of things. It takes time.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I mean, football is coming soon.
Yeah.
It's today is third, right? 11th, football is coming.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things. It's summer. You want to go out. Beer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of distractions. So for some, you just want to do. It's very easy. 9 to 5, whatever timeline it is. You do certain shifts. You go out, enjoy. That's it.
Right.
But there are people, of course, who want to do something. You want to build something for yourself, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You have gone through that process.
Yeah.
You are doing that.
Yeah.
For me also, and I have 1.5-year old kid.
Wow.
I need to be with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, I need to do my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I need to look into the podcast.
Yeah.
I need to look into Bato.
Yeah.
In a way, it kind of keeps motivating me.
Yes.
To do those things, and once you have the family mix in that,
Yeah.
it also makes you like really sort of like focused. Okay,
Right.
These few hours that I have extra time,
Yeah.
I'll spend on that. Rest, I'll spend with the family and the other things.
Right.
But long story short, it's not for everybody. It takes
Got
a
it.
lot of focus,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect on it.
Yeah.
I also want to sometimes just chill out and
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. It's
But
part of the game.
majority of the time,
Yeah.
I feel I can do that, and I do that. And then, so there's like quite many different sort of people. But again, long story short, it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would recommend everyone to have at least something on the side that you can say of your own.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, like later on in the interview, but now since you already mentioned it, I will ask you right away. So you are running multiple things, right? You are running you are building Bato, and you are, New Heights with Bikash. But at the same time, you are also head of programs at hopohopo.io. You have a family and, the community. How do you kind of keep yourself grounded to be able to, run multiple things simultaneously?
I think it's also, I've done that for many years.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've become more effective.
Okay.
Early days when I started just a podcast,
Okay.
I had a regular job on a podcast.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for
Okay.
me, and I didn't have a family back then, or for example, my son back then.
Yeah.
So it was still very difficult to manage everything. Manage. How it goes.
For sure.
In terms of confirming the guests, making the
Yeah.
photographer, videographer ready, and then
Yeah.
everything put together.
Yeah.
It takes so much
Promotion
time,
and
so much
stuff.
coordination.
Yeah.
And then after that, once you have those things ready, chopping it, clipping it, subtitles, everything.
Yeah.
It takes so much time.
Exactly.
So I was not that systematic before,
Okay.
but over the years, I've
Yeah.
become more systematic.
Right.
So if I have, for example, in Hopo platform, so for example, for that, now we are more focusing on the maritime industry. So we
Yeah.
have the vertical called 300 Maritime.
Okay.
So it's all about, for example, bringing in relevant sort of maritime startups,
Okay.
along with the investors and corporates,
Yeah.
and then put them in the room, and then so that they can discuss a bit more in terms of purchase order, in terms of investments and those kind of things. So we're very much focused 9 to 5.
Got it.
For me is that. But apart from that, I try to be as systematic or as focused as possible in terms of doing something with Bato, doing something with New Heights.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've
Got it.
got that. I've been able to do much more effectively,
Right,
compared to a few years back. And one other point that what I want to also join on this one is that because it's so much, or whatever I do in terms of Bato, in terms of New Heights, in terms of or 300 Maritime,
Yeah.
it's all about revolves around entrepreneurship.
Right.
It also revolves around helping startups, or
Yeah.
having the startups on the platform,
Yeah.
connecting with startups and investors. So that's why it's not something I'm doing, talking about football
Yeah.
and, for example, doing something else,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
going hiking, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's whatever I do, it's very much connected one way or the other.
Right,
It
right.
complements, so
Right.
it becomes much more easier for me.
Exactly.
To also kind of it brings me much more joy in terms of whenever I'm doing those, because it's so much connected on a day-to-day life.
Right. As they say that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah. And sometimes you feel like there's not enough hours.
Exactly.
You want to keep doing few things, and one change, and sometimes like saying whenever it's about to sleep, time to sleep, and I'm like thinking, okay, I'm gonna do one last change, and especially close to the event or closer to, for example, recording a podcast, whatever it is, we're like, okay, one more. I just need to refine one thing.
Right.
It takes, but but that is how it is.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, if you have something that you like to do, then it's not enough.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you a question though, because like you said, systems and structures, I think are one of the things that help successful entrepreneurs. But not everybody have systems and structures. But because you have been in corporate, would you say that's like an advantage of being in corporate, because corporate obviously teaches you or gives you like systems and structures, so when you bring that into the other things that you do, it probably helps, but let's say for people who have never been in corporate and they don't know like about systems and structure, what would you say like are some of the systems or the structures or some routines that you think can help people to position things in terms of priority, to be able to maybe like work on a 9 to 5 and then still be able to build something for themselves?
I think it's all about sort of like I would say, especially in the company level, it's also about how the structure has been set, how the legacy has been set beforehand.
Right.
And there are certain structures that you have to do in terms of, let's say now in terms of event organization. For instance, if I have to reach out to a certain speaker or a certain partner, there are certain structure to it. Who has a warm lead? Have they been to our event before or not? So there are certain structures, certain steps that one has to follow.
Right.
So for example, and do I reach out to directly the CEO to speak or founder to speak? Or do I go to the press or comms people to ask them, hey, is your CEO available on during XYZ time or not? Right. So there's a certain structure on that one. So it depends how the structure has been set. And then the people who actually execute it, is that structure relevant, or is that structure effective enough that you can get the result? Some of the time, and you can just pick up the phone. Hey, you have the phone numbers of that CEO or that founder on their LinkedIn or on, for example, the website. Just give them a call. Hey, Matt, we're doing this and this. XYZ, are you available? So there's certain. So it depends. Whether it's startup, whether it's a corporate, it's just that you need to have a common understanding with the team. What is the most effective way to get the results? Because at the end of the day, what I've learned over the years, especially coming from the event industry and this the startup ecosystem, that no matter how much we plan, no matter how much we try to build, if we can't execute, for example, no matter, we were working the whole year.
Wow.
50 plus team back then. 2,400. For example, at one point I was leading the volunteer operations, so 2,400 volunteers.
Wow.
And then we have like 50 team leads, 50 or kind of like full time working people. And then you have 50 team leads. The 50 team leads will have 150, 200 group leads. So there's a certain change. So when you think about it, if there's no coordination, it's not going to go through. And then the whole, those 10, 11 months that we are planning for those 2 days, if you can't execute on those two days, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So whatever makes, helps you execute, you can do it. But of course, having said that, there has to be a certain process that everybody has to follow, that what works the best for the organization, even in the corporates, even if the big organization. I'm sure not everybody follows, like everybody has 5 steps to do a certain thing. I'm sure there are some certain shortcuts, and especially with the AI coming in now, there's a lot of things cut down. But whether it's a startup or whether it's corporate, there's a certain way of doing things. But it's just that you just need the results, you just need the execution. So for that, you have to make it as simple as possible. So that's how I would say it.
Right. So this is a little bit off topic, but I want to still shed a little bit light on that. So you mentioned that like for you to be able to have, I know Slash, right? I always thought it's just those 2 days, 3 days, or weekend, whatever. Now
it's much more than that.
You see, so it's like for me to just see, like from the outside looking in, I only see those 2-3 days, right? But behind those 2-3 days, there's like a whole year of effort, like preparation and stuff like that to make it successful, right? So that I wanted to ask you, like, people don't see how much work it actually takes to, be able to do something and do it effectively. Like a podcast, for example, right? When somebody sees an episode, maybe it's like 30 minutes or 60 minutes, that's what they see. But behind that 30 minutes or 60 minutes, there's probably like, 2 weeks of research and, communication here and there, like maybe 8 hours of editing, all that type of stuff. So in your opinion, right, what do you think are some of the things that entrepreneurs can do behind the scene to be able to make sure like their systems are built like effectively, so that when that short period comes out that is visible to everybody else, they are able to have like a strong foundation to support like whatever they are presenting, whether it's like a product or a podcast or even a startup page or whatever. Like what do you think?
I'd say there's quite multiple things to make that happen. I would say, especially in terms of now, if we talk about, let's say, Slush or Arctic 15 or the deep tech at Nordic, and even like Bato Summit, what I did this last month. It comes down, and the podcast that we're doing now.
Yes.
It comes so much down to the preparation.
Right.
How much prepared are you? And how much risk management do you have you done already? For example, like our case, we're supposed to film it last week.
Yes.
But we had an agreement. Okay, so we're gonna come on this day. And then things didn't happen.
Exactly.
But we had the risk management aspect that, okay, so for example now, Godson, you have a room booked. Okay, now it's cancelled. I'm gonna book a room next episode for next time. So we had the room ready. At least you have those connections. You have those next steps ready. If you can make it, I can do it myself. Or at least that skill set, that understanding of how the process goes. At least you have that covered. So having that kind of like a back end cover is very important. Like for example, when building Slush or Arctic 15 or even Nordic, Nordic Business Forum or even a deep tech. For example, Nordic Business Forum, I was a volunteer. Even being part of the volunteer, going through those different training sessions, how to greet people, how to, if you're on the stage, for example, how to make sure these speakers are on time, and they are taken from the backstage to the main stage. So there's a certain process. So at least as long as the whole team knows what they have to do, roles and responsibilities, going through those checks. For example, having those dry runs. That okay, what happens if a speaker doesn't show up? Well, then you got to figure out somewhere else. If there's like 3 speakers in a panel discussion, if one doesn't show up and you can't find anywhere, of course you look for options. Are there anyone who can right away know that particular topic and then jump in the role? If not, then you just manage with those 2 people, 3 people, whatever is left on the stage. So I think it's all about planning as much as possible at the back, but also being very, very honest and very practical that, hey, everything's not gonna go according to the plan. There's gonna be some cancellation, there's gonna be something not working, tech not working, people not coming, something happened. So you just have that kind of like mindset. You can have option A, B, C, D, to jet, but there's always something that you'll not have any option. But you just have to be practical enough. You try your best. Let's go with it. So execute whatever you have left. And I think that mentality has to be there. No matter how much you plan, things are always going to go south. So I have at least when we're building events, whether it's Slush, Arctic 15, and other events, for example, at Bato Summit, the mentality was there. We're not going to get everyone there. Not everything is going to be according to the plan, according to the timetable. But you just got to improvise those ad hoc things. You got to make sure you handle that. And the more things you do, the more events you do, or the more projects you do, the better. You get the hang of it. And you can anticipate a bit more things, much more faster, compared to the other people who have not done that thing.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask you because up until now it seems like everything has been going off smoothly for you according to plan. Like you said, when you came to Finland, you did
21 years.
21 years, right?
It's not 2 years.
So in these 21 years, I'm sure you must have had some challenges, especially being, a foreigner or being a Nepalese living in Finland. I'm sure you must have had, some challenges, So if you don't mind sharing, what are some of the challenges that, you had, be it like just, like integrating into the community, or, when you started to go into the corporate, what type of challenges did you have?
Till we live here, I mean, there's whether you are in Finland or any other countries, in your own home country, you will have your challenges.
Right.
Of course, there's different phases, different, levels
Yeah,
of challenges.
yeah,
In Finland, I think my challenge has, kind of like, to be very honest, I've been so far been able to have good network, good community at the back. I have a lot of friends who have been friends for 15, 20 years. And we have seen each other's growth. So that sort of a backbone is always there.
Right.
Of course, in terms of the family, also being with my wife for almost, quite many, 50, 70. It also helps a lot for me to get that foundation. So the family and the community is also important. So at least that part has been really, really good for me.
Right.
And then also over the years, of course, the challenges are always there in terms of once you graduate or once you're getting into the working life, then you start seeing the problems. Okay,
right.
Do you have enough credentials? Do you have enough finish? Do you have enough connections? Especially now in Finland, when you say 70-80%, I mean, jobs are hidden jobs. We're trying to get into the working life, and we don't have the right connection. It sucks.
True.
True. And I have literally seen some people getting roles in front of me or in front of other people who are much more deserving than the person who got it.
Right.
That is how it is.
Right.
No matter how much we cry about it, no matter how much we say we hope have an event about inclusive recruitment or doing this and that. That is how the things do work.
Right.
And then it's going to take some time, to have that change. So you just have to accept the fact, and then you just have to move on and say okay, what other options can I do? Okay, if I don't get a job with a regular CV, you start, instead of spending 8 hours writing a CV, using different prompts, man, use that for 2 hours, 6 hours, go to Marezero, go to Epicenter, go to other events, network, get to know people, and again, just because you shake your hand, somebody's hand doesn't mean you're going to get a job tomorrow. Right. It takes time. Build that relationship, whether it's with Finns, whether it's other international, or even your own people. It takes some time to have the relationship. So I think the challenges, for me, has been in that sense when I started getting into the role, trying to look for proper jobs. Then I kind of felt okay, it takes much more time. Then I had a bachelor's degree, I had a master's degree, I was able to speak Finnish here and there. But I didn't have that connection. I didn't have that the relationship built with the right people or people who in the industry that I want to work with. Startup community was something that I had no clue about. So but slowly I started getting volunteering, and I think the challenge has always been there has been some sort of challenges also. For example, when you start volunteering, I mean, you're volunteering in 10-15 events, and you get nothing out of it. Because of course at the end you want to say, okay, I go to the event, I connect with that people, I do amazing job as a volunteer, and expectation is okay. After two jobs, I'm sure I'm going to get something, internship roles or something, but you don't get it, because like you, there's 100 others doing the same thing, having the same agenda. So it takes some time. I think so. I think the challenges and the frustration has been there in terms of getting my foot on that, and especially I got into the proper working life when I think 17, 18. So that's almost 10, 15, 10, 12 years.
Wow.
I mean, so. Of course, the frustration part is there, but at the same time, I'm also very practical enough, thinking that, okay, I couldn't get it because of that. But sometimes, no matter how much practical you are, you still think damn it, I should have done this. But I wouldn't change a thing. Having said, I wouldn't change a thing.
Got it.
So again, the challenge has always been getting into the work, getting to your first, first step on that door. Once you get it, executing it, being proactive. That brings another level of challenges, another level of sort of commitment, how much committed you are, and those kind of things. But at least I would say early days, 16, 17, when I started getting into the ecosystem, I think that was a bit challenging for me. Because if I was 18 or 19, I mean, you are it's kind of you're really happy, you're sort of you're so energized.
You have
once you're 30, 35, you don't have time to
Right.
listen to somebody's story.
Right.
I mean, that's how it is.
I know.
So you want to execute, but you are not on that level.
Yeah.
You don't have enough credentials to be on that room, to be on that table, to talk about, hey man, how much funding have you got? You're not on that level. So it takes time.
Right.
So I think that has been a challenge that you're old enough, but you're not experienced enough.
Right.
So that has been the challenge.
I want to ask you this because Finland, like I said earlier on, that network in Finland is very hard. Because in Finland everything is like pretty much closed, right? You mentioned that when you came first in the beginning, you yourself, you didn't have connections, you didn't know anybody, right? Now you are part of Slash, which I believe is like the biggest like networking event at least in the Nordics, right? So you've come a long way from not having any networks to being in the room where everybody else is in the room. So for people who might be struggling with networking, or people who say like they don't know anybody, they don't know where to go, like where would you say like they should start from to be able to get that first step?
Yeah, I mean, Slash is a really, really good example of really trying things out.
Right.
I remember like 17, 18. I mean, 2,400 volunteers. I mean, imagine the amount of people that you get to know. When you have those leadership experience days, when you have those volunteer days, getting to know people. Some of I'm not sure about nowadays, but back then, even a team would be like 150, 200 people.
Wow.
Right? So you get to know so many people. So I think that is a very good start point for many people who really want to get into not only networking, not only getting into startup, but just to understand, just to explore things. Because when you're in the early stages of your career, you want to explore things. You want to try out. Okay, for example, myself, I've done volunteering in film festival, really tech festival, some concerts and stuff. I tried quite many different things. Because I was and I'm still very much into event management. I love organizing events and then having those aspects. So that's always been my go-to things. So for people, Slush is one option. Arctic 15, all these different events. Nordic Business Forum. And I'm mentioning those names because I'm coming from the event industry. But apart from that, just there are so many different, for example, student organizations organizing different events. For example, Marriage one. There are like events happening all the time. And events is the so much kind of like the low-hanging fruit that you can actually go. And you might not be able to talk, today. But if you start going into a few of those events, I mean, you don't have to notice. Somebody else will actually notice. Actually, I saw you like in the last event. What's up? So you start from there, right? But there has some sort of like a proactiveness has to be there from your side. So I'll tell everyone watching, everyone listening. I mean, if you want to get make a career, whether it's Finland, whether it's some other place, wherever it is, I mean, you got some sort of proactiveness has to be there, and you have to be there. Nobody's going to come to your door and then start knocking. Hey, Godson, do you want to, be friends, or do you want to, do something? So you have to be there, right? But it will take time, and like everybody has to go through that phase, and then once you start doing that, it's just a matter of time. You get a hang of it, and then you start making connections, and then it's just that you also need to, at one point, you also need to start thinking about, okay, is it enough? Do I have to do more than that? But that is another story.
So, Bikash, I want to ask you this, right? So you've come a long way, right? 21 plus something years ago, you came to Finland. You've come a very long way. But I want to take you a little bit back, right? Knowing what you know now, with all the experience that you have, the exposure, the networks, the connection and everything that you have, if you could go back to the version, of you that came to Finland in the beginning, and you could tell them something, because, clearly, no matter how far we have come, somebody just came, like us, 21 years or so, whatever ago. So if you could say something to Bikash, who came, like a few years ago, what would you tell them?
A very cliche answer for myself. For instance, I would say, if I was back 2000, like if I was just coming to Finland, or let's put it this way, would I change anything? I wouldn't. I would be, because whatever I am, it's a very cliche answer, but that's how it is. Because whatever things that I have done in my life over these 20 plus years, whether it's, doing everything possible, from volunteering to cleaning to postage, whatever it is, and it has made me who I am.
Right.
So I wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
But to everyone who's coming to Finland, if they want to hear, for example, okay, because what's your thought? What do you have to do to make? Not saying that I'm like big person, important person, but I have some experience because I have gone through that process.
Right.
So what I would say to them is that be very open-minded.
Yeah.
Try things out.
Right.
And especially when you're like 2021, which is coming to Finland. Be very active in the student organizations nowadays. I mean, a lot of students, especially international students, are very much involved in all these student activities. Whether it's Aalto ES, whether it's Hagehele, events, X, or whether it's for example Junction or Dash or Splash, or there's quite many different things. And then being a volunteer or being a team member in other bigger events, tech events, everybody's getting into that. More and more people are involved in that. So be very open-minded.
Got it.
Just because it's 2 days shift that you're not getting paid, shouldn't stop you on doing that. Again, I'm coming from the event. Since I'm coming from the event industry, that's what I know. And that's what I see, that there's so much value of networking, so much value of getting to know each other. So go out there. I would always say, go out there and get to know as many people as possible, network. Second thing, language is very important. No matter whether you like it or not, language is going to be very crucial at one point of time. Of course, when you have like international crowd, when you have connections and stuff, it will not affect that much. But when you're trying to get involved, trying to get integrated in the community, if you speak 2 more lines in Finnish compared to the other one sitting on the next side, you will be noticed compared to the other one. So that is something. Focus on Finnish, because once it's starts hitting the 3rd year, 4th year, you will start getting lazy. That's the same thing happened to me.
True.
And then I see a lot of my friends who are not able to converse in Finnish after being so long. So I would just say, go out there, meet as many people, and do networking as much as possible. Be very, very open-minded. Try out things, and then focus on the language.
100%.
It is important, no matter whether we like it or not.
100%.
So at least I would say those things are there.
Got it.
And I would say there's a lot of opportunities. You just have to be proactive enough to grab them.
Then again, you came to Finland, and like you said, there was not so many Nepalese people. You didn't see them in the events you went to. Now you have been able to, create a path, through Bato and, new heights with Bikash and stuff. And also you have become like a visible, Nepalese face in, Finland's startup ecosystem. Do you see that as a weight or a privilege? Because obviously you are the one who is like leading, and you are creating, the platform or the opportunity for other people. Do you see it as a weight or a privilege?
I see both, but I see privilege more. Definitely there's a weight. For people who know like me, that hey, okay, Bikash is working, his work in XYZ companies in the past and in the ecosystem and stuff. So there was a certain weight on me that hey, I need to, whatever I do the next venture, for example, if I even like now I'm doing Bato, I need to make sure it succeeds. And I give the right platform because people are betting on it. People know that okay, so if Bikash does it, so there's a that they will believe on it. So I have to keep that momentum, keep that track, keep that quality in there. So there is definitely a pressure for me to execute, make it happen. For example, this Bato Summit, the first one that we did last month, it was sold out crowd. 150 people in Money when we did it.
Nice.
So for next time, I need to make sure
elevate.
I need to have enough. For example, this year we had 30 to 40 internationals. Percent international people coming in. So whether it's Finns, other internationals. So I need to make sure that we have enough crowd also for next event. That it's not only Nepalese, founders, Nepalese entrepreneurs, in Nepalese tech, kind of enthusiasts in the team. I need to be able to bring foreign investors, people coming from abroad, coming to our event, getting to network, so that people, they will feel like, man, I saw you yesterday in the other event. I don't want them to feel like that. I need to bring enough crowd. So that is the sort of quality, that is the kind of like pressure that I have to make sure, whether it's a podcast, whether it's the regular job that I do, whether it's a Bato, I need to make sure I deliver quality. There's a pressure. Having said that, at the same time, I have a privilege. Okay, if somebody talks about, for example, for the last 2-3 years, I've been organizing kind of like tech meetup for Nepalese entrepreneur, like Nepalese community, slash.
Right.
So I have the privilege in the sense that people kind of like ask me, brother, anything doing slash? So they already are expecting something. So there is a privilege that I have that I can always say, hey, like if I say like, okay, I'm going to do this one, probably somebody else who have not been able or not that active in the ecosystem might not be able to do it.
Right.
Because they will kind of reach out to me. So I have that privilege of being the first one to do it. Being the first mover, whether it's a podcast, whether it's in the ecosystem. Of course, we do have other people, Nepalese people also in the ecosystem, and they're doing amazing job in those. So we are on a regular basis collaborating with each other, making sure that we build a platform for the community. So there definitely is a pressure for me to execute, deliver quality stuff. At the same time, man, I'm very privileged that I have friends who can, kind of reach out to me and say like, hey, because we're gonna do something. If there's any project, I'll be first, second, third person to hear like,
got it.
Can we do it together? So I think that privilege part, and I'm very happy that I have been able to. I'm very proud also, to be very honest. That it took a lot of time for me. But I'm very happy that I have been on the stage, that I've been able to, that at least people do consider, okay, because let's do it together. So at least I have been on that sense, on that kind of like a level for them to reach out to me. So I'm very privileged on that.
Got it. I have a closing question for you, and then just a few one-word round that I would like us to do. I want to see how this goes.
Sure.
So my last question is like this, right? Because you came from Nepal, you landed in one of the world's most reserved countries. And instead of waiting for someone to include you, you build the table yourself. If there's a young person listening right now from Nepal, from Ghana, Nigeria, wherever, right, who feels invisible in the ecosystem that they are trying to break into, what do you want them to know?
I think I've repeated it a few times already. Go out
there. Right.
I mean, be there, man. I mean, it's I know it's very easy when you are, again, I'm not saying I'm like, on
got it.
To some extent I've been able to, because I have experience going through that phase. So I can at least provide my perspective on this one. So I would say go out there. First it's gonna suck. The first few days, few times, it's gonna be that you're gonna start thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I here? I know no one, nobody's talking to me. I'm just in the corner playing with my phone or doing something else, and then pretending that I'm busy, and then because nobody's reaching out to me. That's the feeling. But it's just a matter of time. Just the more you do it, the more start talking with one or two people. Then that's how it starts. So I would say, number one, what they should do. For example, everybody watching from different parts of the world. I mean, whatever community you are in, for especially what has helped me over the years is that being part of the strong community. For example, I always go back to my Nepali community. We just had a concert last week. So we had almost 700 people in Apollo. I mean, one of the biggest crowds in like Nepalese crowd in Finland. Like Nepalese band touring Europe. So imagine that we are on that level already. Bands from Nepal that coming to European countries, they're actually playing in front of Nepalese crowd. So we have already made that environment.
That's huge.
So we have that community. So having that community at the back is so important. So whatever I do, I'm so thankful. For example, like this weekend actually on Saturday we're going to Murky with one of my friends. So we are getting together. Again, that is the privilege, and that is the time, that is the stuff that we have built over 15, 20 years. It's not that, hey, can I join tomorrow? It's not like that. So we have built that process. So going back, I always say, wherever you're watching from, be part of that community. Even if you can't lead it, even if you can't actively take part in it, but at least make sure, be aware that, hey, if I need anything, there is a community. At least be on that list. Then the second one, proactiveness is always there. I mean, because you could have easily said, for example, okay, last week cancelled, man, I don't have anyone. Let's cancel it. You could have easily said that, and I would have said, I don't know. So, but we went forward. So at least that proactiveness, at least that, okay, let's do it. So what if it cancelled? What if it didn't work out? Let's go next step, and then let's reserve it.
Right.
So I think that kind of proactiveness, I think that kind of like making sure you execute on a certain thing, that mentality has to be there.
Got it.
So community, mentality, and of course a bit of luck is always needed. So I would say like mix of quite many things.
Yeah, I really appreciate you because you've shared a lot of interesting insights. And thank you so much for coming here to do this podcast. Even though we had challenges, I have a few one-word questions that I want to ask you. You can answer it as fast as you can, and then.
But before that, can I just say also thank you so much for inviting me
anytime.
And also like sharing my stories in terms of my journey and building Bato and just being part of the community. Again, whether it was me, whether it was somebody else from our community, I would be very happy and very proud that somebody from our community is there representing us, being on that spotlight, and just kind of like giving that sort of representation that hey, we are also doing something different than the regular norm. So thank you so much for having that platform, and again, I understand, and I'm also in that process of having something of your own, building the brand. Man, it takes time.
For sure.
It takes time. It takes a lot of iteration and going back and forth, but you're doing an amazing thing on that one. You give you a platform for me, and I saw Kelvin. I saw quite many other
Reggie.
Reggie was there. I know. And Kelvin was sharing his story, and I mean having that platform is so important.
For sure.
Because now the more I know today, the more I talked about my journey and everything, I started thinking about damn, it's been a long time. And there's so much to do also. So I think it gives a lot of perspective, a lot of things that you're really proud of things you have done.
For sure.
But at the same time, it also gives a lot of like, hey man, I gotta do more. And it gives so much energy. And I think it's very, very important. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Bikash. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think we're done. You answered the questions already. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, man.
No worries. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
It was fun.